So today we're gonna talk about something I like to call forced negativity on YouTube. Many of you will probably have heard about the semi-well-known content creator Andrei Terbea from Romania, and I would like to use him and certain videos having been made against him as an example to what I mean by this, and I'd also just like to bring some general points across as well. If you don't know who Andrei Terbea is, he has an animation channel of respectable size. At the time of recording this, he has 2.8 million subscribers, so he's definitely up there with the biggest animation channels like All Ones Out, Jaden Animations, etc. Though his style of content doesn't quite match up with these people. You see, while the most successful animation channels usually focus their videos on storytelling, Andrei's channel instead mostly selects somewhat relevant and controversial topics to go through in a pretty informative manner. Although it should be mentioned that he occasionally also produces content that is closer to classical animation storytelling. He normally tries to stay somewhat objective on the topic he comments or informs people on, but in rare cases also voices strong opinions on certain videos, which he still presents respectively overall. So now that everyone somewhat knows who Andrei Terbea is, why am I talking about him and how is he an example for forced negativity? Well, before Leafy's channel got deleted off the platform, he produced a lot of videos against certain content creators, one of these individuals being Andrei Terbea. While Leafy's attack on Andrei was in the public view generally overshadowed by his continuous videos against Twitch streamer Pokimane, some people in Leafy's often pretty toxic community came out in support of Leafy by making their own videos insulting Andrei Terbea. Now, I'm not gonna be the one to be condemning these videos. In my eyes, the videos that have been produced by Leafy and his supporters can hardly even be regarded as any actual criticism. It's more of a mockery, and in extreme cases these so-called commentators straight up just harass and insult the guy. I won't get into all of this, since I believe the video he made 3 months ago addressing the Leafy ban situation is a good enough partial response, even though I don't 100% agree with every point he makes. So yeah, watch this video if you want some additional context. I'll link it in the description. Now what I really want to address are these newly released videos against him. So there's this YouTuber called Sensitive Society. He recently hit 50k. Congrats on that, by the way. And he, like a lot of YouTubers, has a community Discord, which I'm a member of, even though I don't think I have ever written a single message on it. Anyway, his community members are allowed to promote their own videos, and one person showed off their new video against Andrei Terbea, which got universally supported by the community. It's been out for a couple days now and has a 100% positive like ratio. So this piqued my interest, and I decided to give this exposed video a shot, because even though I would consider myself a supporter of Andrei Terbea, given that I have been subscribed to him, and knowing that it takes him a lot of time to produce these videos, the total amount of project on his channels isn't as high as people might expect. So I think I've probably seen every video since the one on Ninja. So yeah, I definitely went into this video against him skeptical, but not opposed to it from the get-go. That's important, because I think regardless if someone is perceived positively overall, when you can find some valid criticism in their work, you absolutely have the right to call them out on it, if it adds something to the conversation. But after watching the entire thing, that is even a 2-part series, I've reached the conclusion that the content produced is not based on actual criticism, but rather on plain hatred or dislike against the creator, since the points being made are objectively speaking biased, hypocritical, and simply wrong. So we'll go through the key parts of the video and I'll show you what I mean. So first you have to understand that this video was a follow-up to a previous release in November, so 3 months after the original drama happened. And in all honesty, this was just a complete copy of Leafy's original video that for some reason released way too late, since most of the points in it get repeated in the second video. And the rest has already been addressed by Andrei before this guy even made his video, meaning he made arguments that have largely already been disproven 2 months ago. Great research, by the way. Anyway, let's get right into the main video. Okay, hold up, I have to get this out of the way. How does this person have the audacity to call his exposed video Content Cop? Have you ever seen the original Content Cop? That series was legendary. It had high effort put into it and a usual length of 10 to 30 minutes while making compelling arguments that would affect people's careers even years after it. By comparison, your video is a nonsensical 5-minute freestyle of you talking over some Fallout gameplay. And that's not even taking into account that like a third of the thing are just Andrei Terbea clips that aren't even credited in your description. How does this thing have unanimous support, man? Anyway, getting into the actual video.
Why don't we get started with the first argument point?
You can always tell right off the bat when a video is going to be completely horrible if you realize that the title of the first point isn't even spelled right. Relatable. This guy is turning into every British commentary YouTuber ever made. Okay, maybe I'm being too harsh. Let's look into the arguments he makes. Maybe he's got a point.
I put my soul into these videos because I want to build something that sticks with you for a lifetime. Much like Jake Paul's herpes. Allegedly.
Nobody laughed at the joke. If you say you did, you're lying, and here's how I know. The joke wasn't meant to be funny. I know this because it had that stupid drum beat after it. The drum beat was there because the joke was unfunny on purpose. I'm so bad at making jokes. I'm so relatable and quirky. I don't want to become some sort of humor critic like Diesel Patches. All I'm saying is this quirky humor approach has to stop. Oh, but humor's subjective. Well, if you find his jokes funny, you're subjectively a fucking idiot.
Okay, I hoped that I didn't have to tell anyone this, since in my eyes it should be pretty obvious. But comedy, and that also applies to Andrei's jokes in his video, is not perceived the same way by everyone. If you dislike his jokes, that is your personal opinion, but humor will always stay subjective. Subjectively being an idiot is not an argument. He clearly pre-writes his jokes. They have a build-up and a punchline. Now, if you don't even find it the least bit funny, that's totally okay, but it's not a valid point of criticism, since the jokes aren't as integral to his videos as the informative commentary aspect. Which means even if you take out all the jokes because you find them horrible, the end result of the video will still be almost identical. Plus, when you're criticizing someone, it's usually smart to point out what that person could do better in the future, or in that case, how he could improve the quality of his jokes. You only talk down on him, in the process barely explaining what is even wrong with his humor. If you find it so bad, then why don't you make a suggestion on how he could improve this, since you actually seem to believe that a subjectively bad joke defines the whole video. I just don't understand why these people create videos out of pure hatred, man. And then they call it a critique or an exposed video. Like when I have something to say about certain people, then my end goal would be that said person sees this and it perhaps makes them rethink or reflect on their behavior. But you just seem to have a personal problem with him that leads to you to believe that you need to destroy him when really you haven't said anything convincing so far.
That was only one minor point. I have some better ones coming up. Andrei Terbea has been passive-aggressive in multiple videos of his, but the best example is the video he made on Leafy. So if you didn't know already, Leafy's here made a video on Andrei, and him and his fans really didn't like that. So Andrei made a response video, but disguised it as a video talking about Leafy's termination in general. I know this because he was being super passive-aggressive, saying stuff like his content was low effort, which is a great argument point by the way, because as we all know, the more effort you put into your videos, the more entertaining they are. Who am I kidding? That argument point sucks.
Credit where credit is due. I like your transitions when they're not spelled wrong. I wouldn't be able to recreate them and they look pretty good, but I still have some major problems with the whole argument being presented. If you just watch his video, not Andrei's response, like most of his fans did, you would think that Andrei argued Leafy's content was low effort, but in reality that wasn't the point Andrei made at all. You see, the main topics he discussed in his video were censorship on YouTube, Leafy pushing boundaries, double standards, and at the end of it he directly addresses Leafy's video on him. If you watch the clip from his video where he claims Leafy produces low effort content,
For someone who keeps yapping about the stock market and how financially savvy he is, I don't buy for a second that he's just okay with losing direct access to 5 million people to which he could just churn his minimal effort content on a daily basis in order to stay at the top of their consciousness and continue to make bank selling his merch.
you can see that he is discussing the fact that Leafy in private has to be somewhat sour on losing his income, while pretending that he doesn't care on the internet. So it's not a point he made, but even if it was, it wouldn't be that far off from the truth. In his videos, he just freestyles about random stuff or watches a video and gives his thoughts on it in between. Not always too much effort is put into them in order to be able to release them on the daily, which isn't necessarily a bad thing by the way, but if you're gonna make it out to be a wrong argument, then yeah, his average videos aren't that high effort, especially if you compare it to an Andrei Terbea animation commentary, which usually takes Andrei several weeks to make. Okay, so he then goes on to claim that Andrei Terbea is being a hypocrite by comparing clips from several videos of his.
I found out that Andrei Terbea is a huge hypocrite. I'll show you some evidence right now.
I think valuable commentary should be based as much as possible on objective analysis, verified facts, and a sort of sportsmanship that might allow you to eventually shake hands with the person you're criticizing if you ever met them.
That was a clip from the Leafy video he made. Now let's take a look at a clip from his Alinity video.
Alinity, the embodiment of all that is morally wrong in a human being, wrapped neatly behind a pair of sweater puppies, proudly displayed in front of a million children under the shallow disguise of a gamer.
You know, this is the only point I could somewhat support. If you weren't doing the exact same thing on your video, you call his fans idiots, you label him a liar and a hypocrite on your thumbnail, and your criticism clearly comes from a personal dislike, especially since you try to paint it in a way that Andrei frequently insults people on his channel, but in reality you just cherry pick videos to support your claim. His average video does not insult people, and even creators he criticizes will often get at least some sort of credit, since Andrei, similar to me, knows that not everything can be seen as black and white as you are making it out to be. Could Andrei Terbea have expressed himself better? Yeah, I think so, but his point still proves invalid considering he goes on to state this.
They've drawn a clear line between attacking a person. Alinity is like a raccoon who keeps showing up in everyone's backyard every once in a while. It makes you look out the window like, she is out there again. And a sort of sportsmanship that might allow you to eventually shake hands with the person you're criticizing if you ever met them. And hide your cats, hide your kids, and hide your husbands while you're at it. I think commentary on YouTube is an important sort of cleansing mechanism that keeps creators in check. It's very healthy for the community to have these types of videos, but the moment attacking the person starts to weigh more than combating their ideas, you're entering a territory where you're just inviting YouTube to come in and put their foot down. Which ironically was not that hard to find, because remember, Alinity is a raccoon, and raccoons love dirt.
Remember, it's always good to keep good sportsmanship when making commentary videos and criticizing other creators, but nah, not Alinity. We can make an exception there. Andrei, I'm sorry to say this, but you're being a hypocrite. This was pointed out by Minus the Skunk on YouTube, and I want to say thanks for pointing this out. This helped me out with my video.
So your only comprehensible point is completely taken from another creator. This says a lot about this exposed video, man. Okay, so Andrei himself states that personal attacks shouldn't outweigh objective criticism in the clip you have shown. Now, while I think personal attacks are generally unnecessary in commentary videos, this opinion does not make him a hypocrite. Outweighing means that theoretically attacks can still be part of the video as long as the majority of the content consists of objective criticism. Meaning he did not break his own rule with his Alinity statements, especially considering that two of the examples are either jokes or comparison, so not necessarily a direct personal insult to Alinity. And this is weirdly enough how this content cop already ends, even though all of the arguments vary from blatantly wrong to manipulative. Which is why I'm so confused as to how this video is getting this much support from people. There isn't a single dislike if you don't count mine. Okay, so this guy has a community of a few hundred people, so I think he'll probably end up seeing my video, so I wanna give my overall thoughts. I do not think that he is a terrible content creator. You can see that he was part of the people that were heavily influenced by Leafy here when they were younger, which reflects on his content. Meaning he portrays his topics in a very black and white fashion, focusing only on the negative aspect and not giving any credit to his subjects, which I don't think will get him much further in his career. Take this as you will, but leaving all this generic Leafy clone stuff aside, I understand where he's coming from. He probably thinks that videos like this against generally liked creators will get a lot of attention and get people speaking. While I think that anyone should be open to criticism, even those that have done a lot of good things in the past, if you are to expose them, the argument shouldn't come from a place of personal vendetta, but rather from an objective standpoint on the topic. If you fail to find any compelling points against a person, then just let it go. Find topics that you have strong feelings on, whether those be positive or negative, and bring across your arguments based on reasonable criticism, instead of always trying to completely expose creators, leading to this forced negativity on YouTube. When you really think about it, Andrei Terbea doesn't deserve any of this hate. You can clearly dislike this guy on a personal basis, and that's totally fine, but then leave it that way. Don't go out of your way to create a video against someone who you just personally hate, because that's just gonna create so much negativity, and it's completely unjustified since you don't have any actual valid criticism on these people. This is just what inspires a lot of toxic people. Viewers that will see your video and also have a hatred against Andrei Terbea will blatantly believe everything you say, and then go on to his channel just to hate on him. And this is why I'm making this video. You don't need to constantly hate on people just for the sake of it. In long term, it will not get you anywhere. I promise you that. Okay, so this concludes today's video. Since this community will most likely find this video, I'd appreciate a like or a sub. It helps out a lot.